Hare Krishna, my friends. Here we are, Friday night, Srimad Bhagavatam time in Bhaktiville. Welcome. Last week we read about Vishnu Tattva and the various avatars and demigods. Srila Prabhupada mentioned that Sri Krishna in Vrajabhumi was the only one where there was a facility for intimate personal contact, the only avatar that there was a facility for intimate personal contact. Well, this led to a question brought up by Bhakti Mimulus about whether or not Lord Caitanya was a Lila Avatar or not. Khandita found quotes supporting the view that he was not, that he is Krishna himself, bringing love of God to his devotees. There is that facility for intimate personal contact with Lord Caitanya. It was a great discussion. Tonight we're continuing our reading. We're on the First Canto, Second Chapter, Text 27, or page 142 of the PDF, or page 121 of the book. Before we get started, here on my computer, before we get started, let's offer our obeisances to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. And to you and all the Vaishnavas listening and not listening around the world, Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripasindubhye Cha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. I also offer my respectful obeisances unto the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees and can fulfill the desires of everyone. They are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Let's go ahead and chant the 4 verses before we start Bhagavatam. We start with the Om Namo Bhagavate. Yes, we're having a little slideshow war here. Who's in charge of the buttons? Bhakti Mimulus, you're in charge of the buttons. Okay, here we go. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Shunvatam Svakatam Krishna Punya Shrava Kirtanaha Hridyantasto Hyabadrani Vidunoti Suhrit Satam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, supersoul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nashta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Can you go back to the 6 questions there at the very beginning of this? Yes, right there. I just want to go over these 6 questions before we get started. So the sages asked these questions at the very beginning. We're in chapter 2, so they've answered the questions, but they continue to come back to these questions. So I just want to keep these things in mind. So 1, what is the ultimate good for all people? 2, what is the essence of religious scriptures by which the actual self becomes satisfied? 3, why did the Lord appear and take birth from Devaki? 4, tell us of the acts the Lord performs in relationship to creating the material world. 5, describe the activities of the incarnations of the Lord. And 6, where has Dharma gone now that Krishna has left the earth? So you'll see that they keep going over these questions, or the answers to these questions. This is the basis of the Bhagavatam. And then there'll be tangential discussions, but this is the primary questions, or the primary answers that the Bhagavatam is focusing on. All right, so page 142 of the PDF, or 121 of the book. First Canto, 2nd chapter, text 27. Text 27. And we'll do call and response, and then we'll chant the whole thing in unison. Rajas tama prakritayaha. Rajas tama prakritayaha. Samashila bhajantivai. Samashila bhajantivai. Pitre Puta Prajeshadin. Pitra Bhuta Prajeshadin. Shri Aishvarya Prajapsavaha. Shri Aishvarya Prajapsavaha. That was relatively easy. Let's do the whole thing in unison together. Rajastama Prakritayaha Samashila Bhajantivai. Pitraputa Prajeshadin. Shri Aishvarya Prajapsavaha. Another word for word. Rajaha, the mode of passion. Tamaha, the mode of ignorance. Prakritayaha, of that mentality. Samashilaha, of the same categories. Bhajanti, do worship. Vai, actually. Pitra, the forefathers. Puta, other living beings. Prajesha Adin, controller of cosmic administration. Shriya, enrichment. Aishvarya, wealth and power. Praja, aristocracy. Ipsavaha, so desiring. Translation. Those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance worship the forefathers, other living beings, and the demigods who are in charge of cosmic activities, for they are urged by a desire to be materially benefited with women, wealth, power, and aristocratic birth. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. There is no need to worship demigods or whatsoever category if one is serious about going back to Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita 7:20 and 23, it is clearly said that those who are mad after material enjoyment approach the different demigods for temporary benefits, which are meant for men with a poor fund of knowledge. And let's just look at those 2 verses for a moment. So 7:20 is, those whose minds are distorted by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. And 23, men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. All right, so it's pretty clear what's going on here. Let's continue with the purport. We should never desire to increase the depth of material enjoyment. Material enjoyment should be accepted only up to the point of the bare necessities of life, and not more or less than that. To accept more material enjoyment means to bind oneself more and more to the miseries of material existence. More wealth, more women, and false aristocracy are some of the demands of the materially disposed man, because he has no information of the benefit derived from Vishnu worship. By Vishnu worship, one can derive benefit in this life as well as in life after death. Forgetting these principles, foolish people who are after more wealth, more wives, and more children worship various demigods. The aim of life is to end the miseries of life, not to increase them. For material enjoyment, there is no need to approach the demigods. The demigods are but servants of the Lord. As such, they are duty-bound to supply necessities of life in the form of water, light, air, etc. One should work hard and worship the Supreme Lord by the fruits of one's hard labor for existence, and that should be the motto of life. One should be careful to execute occupational service with faith in God in the proper way, and that will lead one gradually on the progressive march back to Godhead. Lord Sri Krishna, when he was personally present in Vrajabhumi, stopped the worship of the demigod Indra and advised the residents of Braj to worship by their business and to have faith in God. So here he's referring to the pastime that we're currently involved in, the worship of Govardhan Hill. So Indra became very angry and created this huge storm. And if you walk around here in Bhaktiville, you'll see that happening on the upper portion of the land here. Big storm. Krishna's underneath holding up the hill. And for 7 days. So we're currently still in that window of celebrating this pastime where Krishna is always protecting us. So back to our text. Worshipping the multi-demigods for material gain is practically a perversity of religion. This sort of religious activity has been condemned in the very beginning of the Bhagavatam as Kaitava Dharma. Kaitava means cheating, so cheating Dharma. There is only one religion in the world to be followed by one and all, and that is the Bhagavad Dharma, or the religion which teaches one to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead and no one else. Text 28 through 29. This is a good verse to memorize because it's repetitive. It's a good one. So let's go over the words here. Vasudeva Paraveda. Vasudeva Paraveda. Oh, I should be singing this. Vasudeva Paramakaha. Vasudeva Parayoga. Vasudeva Parakriyaha. I don't think I need to go through each word because it's pretty much the same except for the last word. Vasudeva Param Jnanam. Vasudeva Param Tapaha. Vasudeva Paro Dharmo. Vasudeva Paragatihi. Right, let's sing it. Vasudeva Paraveda. Vasudeva Paramakaha. Vasudeva Parayoga. Vasudeva Parakriyaha, Vasudeva Param Jnanam, Vasudeva Param Tapaha, Vasudeva Paro Dharmo, Vasudeva Paragatihi. I think I lost the tune there. Excuse me. All right, word for word. Bhakti Mimulus said it was fine. Thank you. Thank you for your encouragement. All right, word for word. Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead. Paraha, the ultimate goal. Vidaha, revealed scriptures. So Vasudeva is the ultimate goal of the revealed scriptures. Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead. Paraha, for worshiping. Makaha, sacrifices. So personality of Godhead is the goal of sacrifices for worshiping. Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead. Paraha, means of attaining. Yogaha, mystic paraphernalia. Excuse me. So Vasudeva, using mystic paraphernalia, Vasudeva is, are the means of attaining. Vasudeva, you use mystic paraphernalia. Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead. Paraha, under his control. Kriyaha, fruit of activities. So personality of Godhead is controls the fruit of activities. Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead. Param, the supreme jnanam, knowledge. Personality of Godhead is the supreme knowledge. Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead. Param, best. Tapaha, austerity. Vasudeva is the best austerity. Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead. Paraha, superior quality. Dharmaha, religion. So this dharma, this religion, is worshiping Krishna is of superior quality. Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead. Paraha, ultimate. Gatihi, goal of life. Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of life. It's a really great verse. And I love Prabhupada's translation. Mine is sad, but his, imbued with all of his knowledge of the scriptures and all of previous acharyas, he writes, in the revealed scriptures, the ultimate object of knowledge is Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. The purpose of performing sacrifice is to please him. Yoga is for realizing him. All fruit of activities are ultimately rewarded by him only. He is supreme knowledge, and all severe austerities are performed to know him. Religion, dharma, is rendering loving service unto him. He is the supreme goal of life. And we have a plate that goes along with this verse. It's plate 10. So let me go ahead and wiggle this around and get to plate 10. 8, 9, plate 10. Oops, too far. Plate 10. Sri Krishna is the supreme goal of life. It's a lovely picture. All right, so Srila Prabhupada's purport. That Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, is the only object of worship is confirmed in these two shlokas. In the Vedic literature, there is the same objective, establishing one's relationship and ultimately reviving our lost loving service unto him. That is the sum and substance of the Vedas. In the Bhagavad Gita, the same theory is confirmed by the Lord in his own words. The ultimate purpose of the Vedas is to know him only. All the revealed scriptures are prepared by the Lord through his incarnation in the body of Srila Vyasadeva, just to remind the fallen souls, conditioned by material nature, of Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. No demigod can award freedom from material bondage. And that's part of the story of Hiranyakashipu. So, he was performing severe austerities so that he could get a boon and he would never die. And so Brahma came and he asked this boon, please can I have the boon that I never die? And he said, no, I can't give you that because even I die. So that's where they came up with the not during the day, not during the night, not inside, not outside, not by humans, not, like that. So no demigod can award freedom from material bondage. Bhakti Mimulus has a comment. Oops. The result was still Krishna, just as he says here, severe austerities are performed to know him. So even a demon's severe austerity. Well, ultimately, in the end, he did get to know him. It's like, is your God here in this column? And go, yeah. Prahlad says, yep. So he did get to know him, but not in the way that we're friends in a loving relationship with Krishna. So his austerity had no love. It's true. Bhakti Mimulus says, how sad. Yes. So back to our purport. That is the verdict of all the Vedic literatures. Impersonalists who have no information of the Supreme Personality of Godhead minimize the omnipotency of the Supreme Lord and put him on equal footing with all other living beings. And for this act, such impersonalists get freedom from material bondage with great difficulty. They can only surrender unto him after many, many births and culture of transcendental knowledge. One may argue that the Vedic activities are based on sacrificial ceremonies. That is true. But all such sacrifices are also meant for realizing the truth about Vasudeva. Another name of Vasudeva is yajna, sacrifice. And in Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that all sacrifices and all activities are to be conducted for the satisfaction of yajna, or Vishnu, the personality of Godhead. This is the case also with the yoga systems. Yoga means to get in touch with the Supreme Lord. And in the university, they say that yoga is cognate. It's the same, has the same root as yoke. So to bind together, yoga. The process, however, includes several bodily features. This is the Patanjali's yoga, such as asana, dhyana, pranayama, meditation, etc. Dhyana means absorption or samadhi. Often meditation is the translation, but it's actually absorption. So, and all of these are meant for concentrating upon the localized aspect of Vasudeva, represented as Paramatma. Paramatma realization, this Krishna in your heart, is but partial realization of Vasudeva. And if one is successful in that attempt, one realizes Vasudeva in full. But by ill luck, most of the yogis are stranded by the powers of mysticism achieved through the bodily process. Ill-fated yogis are given a chance in the next birth by being placed in the families of good learned brahmanas or in the families of rich merchants in order to execute the unfinished task of Vasudeva realization. If such fortunate brahmanas and sons of rich men properly utilize the chance, they can easily realize Vasudeva by good association with saintly persons. Unfortunately, such preferential persons are captivated again by material wealth and honor and practically forget the aim of life. This is also so for the culture of knowledge. According to Bhagavad Gita, There are 18 items in culturing knowledge, and by such culture of knowledge, one becomes gradually prideless, devoid of vanity, non-violent, forbearing, simple, devoted to the great spiritual master and the self-controlled. And I would like to read those verses. So it's Bhagavad Gita 13, 8 through 12, where they go through all of these 18 things. So humility, pridelessness. This is one of my favorite lists, by the way. Humility, pridelessness, nonviolence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness and self-control, renunciation and the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, non-attachment to children, wife, home, and the rest, and even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, resorting to solitary places, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization and the philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I thus declare to be knowledge, and what is contrary to these is ignorance. Bhakti Mimulus says, yes, we discuss this a lot when reading the Bhagavad Gita. Yes. Well, we're just on, chapter 1 right now, so we've got a ways to go. But it's really, seriously, one of my favorite set of verses there. So Prabhupada continues, and all culture of knowledge culminates in devotional service to the personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. Therefore, Vasudeva is the ultimate aim in culturing all different branches of knowledge. Culture of knowledge leading one, leading one to the transcendental plane of meeting Vasudeva is real knowledge. Physical knowledge in its various branches is condemned in the Bhagavad Gita as ajnana, or the opposite of real knowledge. The ultimate aim of physical knowledge is to satisfy the senses, which means prolongation of the term of material existence and thereby continuance of the threefold miseries. So prolonging the miserable life material existence is nescience. But the same physical knowledge leading to the way of spiritual understanding helps one to end the miserable life of physical existence and to begin the life of spiritual existence on the plane of Vasudeva. The same applies to all kinds of austerities. Tapasya means voluntary acceptance of bodily pains to achieve some higher end of life. Ravana and Hiranyakashipu underwent a severe type of bodily torture to achieve this end of sense gratification. So Hiranyakashipu meditated for a long time, so long that ants were eating his body, and they built this giant colony around him to eat his body. Ravana, the demon in the Ramayana, performed severe austerities. One of them was cutting off his head. So he cut off his head, and Shiva came and gave him his head back. He did it 10 times, cut his head off. Severe austerities. So they did these things to achieve the end of sense gratification. So sometimes modern politicians also undergo severe austerities to achieve some political end. This is not actually tapasya. One should accept voluntary bodily inconvenience for the sake of knowing Vasudeva, because that is the way of real austerities. Otherwise, all forms of austerities are classified as modes of passion and ignorance. Passion and ignorance cannot end the miseries of life. Only the mode of goodness can mitigate the threefold miseries of life. Vasudeva and Devaki, the so-called father and mother of Lord Krishna, also underwent penances to get Vasudeva as their son. Lord Sri Krishna is the father of all living beings. Bhagavad Gita 14:4. Let me just read that verse. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving Father. So therefore, he is the original living being of all other living beings. He is the original eternal enjoyer amongst all other enjoyers. Therefore, no one can be his begetting father, as the ignorant may think. Lord Sri Krishna agreed to become the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, upon being pleased with their severe austerities. Therefore, if any austerities have to be done, they must be done to achieve the end of knowledge, Vasudeva. Vasudeva is the original personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. As explained before, the original personality of Godhead expands himself by innumerable forms. Such expansion of forms is made possible by his various energies. His energies are also multifarious, and his internal energies are superior, and external energies are inferior in quality. They are explained in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, 4 through 6, as the para, superior, and apara, inferior prakritis. So let me just read that so that there's no misunderstanding. So 7.4, discussing the apara, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether, these 8 comprise my separated material energies. And then in 7.5, para, he says, besides this inferior nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is a superior energy of mind, which are all living entities who are struggling with material nature and are sustaining the universe. In 7.6, he says, of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both its origin and its dissolution. All right, back to the purport. So his expansions of various forms, which take place via the internal energies, are superior forms, whereas the expansions which take place via the external energies are inferior forms. The living entities are also his expansions. The living entities who are expanded by his internal potency are eternally liberated persons, whereas those who are expanded by the material energies are eternally conditioned souls. Therefore, all culture of knowledge, austerities, sacrifice, and activities should be aimed at changing the quality of the influence that is acting upon us. For the present, we are all being controlled by the external energy of the Lord. Just to change the quality of the influence, we must endeavor to cultivate spiritual energy. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that those who are Mahatmas, or those whose minds have been so broadened as to be engaged in the service of Lord Krishna, are under the influence of the internal potency. And the effect is that such broad-minded living beings are constantly engaged in the service of the Lord without deviation. That should be the aim of life, and that is the verdict of all the Vedic literatures. No one should bother himself with fruitive activities or dry speculation about transcendental knowledge. Everyone should at once engage himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Nor should one worship different demigods who work as different hands of the Lord for creation, maintenance, or destruction of the material world. There are innumerable powerful demigods who look over the external management of the material world. They are all different assisting hands of Lord Vasudeva. Even Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma are included within the list of demigods. But Lord Vishnu, or Vasudeva, is always transcendentally situated. Even though he accepts the quality of goodness of the material world, he is still transcendental to all material modes. The following example will clear that matter more explicitly. In the prison house, there are the prisoners and the managers of the prison house. Both the managers and the prisoners are bound up by the laws of the king. But even though the king sometimes comes in the, and now we have lots of plates for me to go through before I get to the next part of the sentence. Lots of beautiful pictures. Okay, in the prison. He is not bound by the laws of the prison house. So the management is not bound by the laws of the prison house. The king is therefore always transcendental to the laws of the prison house, as the Lord is always transcendental to the laws of the material world. So I think we'll stop there. 6:45. We got started a little late, but we'll stop at our regular time anyway. Any questions or comments? Oh, I do have a comment, actually. So the first 3 cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam are explaining all about Vishnu Tattva, all about how the world is composed, what's the inferior, what's the superior, and our place in the world and our relationship with Krishna, which is exactly what Bhagavad Gita is. But this, Srimad Bhagavatam, goes into so much more detail. And then Srila Prabhupada is also bringing us all of this knowledge from past acharyas into the purports to explain it even more. So this is a very heavily philosophical section, these sections, for the first 3 cantos, and hopefully we'll continue on after we finish first canto. We'll go on to the second canto, but right now we're in the throes of it. We have read a lot. Bhakti Mimulus says we have read a lot already. We have read a lot already. We're on what, page 200? 155, yes. So yes, we've read quite a bit already. But it's so complex. And the thing is, in this purport, Prabhupada is saying, if you understand this, then it's not going to cause you to become illusioned. If you understand how this all works, you're going to see the hand of the Lord in everything, and you're not going to get taken by it. You're going to understand it, and you're going to see Krishna everywhere. Bhakti Mimulus says, yes, that is exactly right. This shows us the hand of the Lord. Yes, that he's everywhere. He's doing all of this. Bhakti Mimulus says it does help. I think it does. And Prabhupada's purports are so very sweet. I think his purports are very sweet. I don't think I thought they were sweet 50 years ago, but now that I'm looking at them, I see that they're very sweet. Oh, Bhakti Mimulus throws in a little politics. It does help until we have a horrible election. Well, we're looking at fruitive activities and how that all works and how it goes on. And, we'll just keep reading to understand more. Bhakti Mimulus says, I kept thinking of Kurukshetra and Queen Kunti during the elections. Yeah, definitely. These things happen, and she accepted, and then there was a whole big war because of how poorly they treated her. So hopefully we won't be getting into a big war, but we can see how things work more clearly by reading these verses and especially the purports. All right, my friend, have a wonderful weekend. Everyone else, have a wonderful time. I hope that you've enjoyed reading with us tonight. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll talk to you again. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.